into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful.
I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman.
Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back in the future.
Sauter Heyman Jewelers, Lincoln and Grand Island. SauterHeyman.com.
Hi, it's Charlie Stone again, and with me on the line, Andy Goodyear, General Manager of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, I know how proud you and everyone at the dealership are to earn the prestigious Honda President's Award year after year, 17 times. Tell our listeners what it means to you and your customers.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, all of us are extremely proud to have earned this award, and I want all of our customers to know it's not just earned by one person's efforts. It's the entire dealership. Sales, parts, and our amazing service department.
17 times. Wow. How does that compare to other Honda dealers?
This award is only given to the most elite dealerships that demonstrate excellence. We really do strive to go above and beyond for the ultimate customer experience before and after the sale, Charlie.
That's why for 2022, Honda of Lincoln is once again Nebraska's #1 volume Honda dealer. Come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business, 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Our sales, precision ag, parts, and service teams are ready to serve you this planning season. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Tailored landscape.
Welcome in to We Talk Facts with 9-year NBA veteran and Nebraska basketball Hall of Famer Erick Strickland and two-time Nebraska football national champion Clester Johnson. Talking and taking names in sports and day-to-day living. Sit back, relax, and join the show with 9-year NBA vet and Nebraska basketball Hall of Famer Erick Strickland and two-time Nebraska football national champion Clester Johnson.
Hola, como esta to all of my people out there in WTF land. This is Clester Johnson, aka Sibo. Sibo is kind of like an inside joke. It's an old rapper from college that we used to listen to. His name was Sibo the Baldhead Nut. But anyway,
I was gonna wonder. You always throw Sibo in there.
That's what it was. That's what it was. As we can all see tonight, I'm rolling solo dolo. My man E Strick is being honored back in his hometown of Opelika, Alabama. They're honoring him. A small town like that, they usually bring back some of their famous cohorts and name a street after him or something. I don't know what he got going on. The man is in so many Hall of Fames. He's inducted in so many things.
You nailed it. We had Russ Hookstein. He's from my area, Arlington.
Okay.
He went to the same school, Cedar Catholic. Population 1,600. We got
you know what I'm talking about.
Hookstein Field. That's the football field we played on. You came to school. Yeah, they got a few things named after him up there.
But I want to thank everybody. If you are tuned in tonight, I want to thank you for coming to 93.7 The Ticket WTF podcast. We're growing. This is episode 7. And I'm gonna jump right in tonight because we got an exciting evening. I got a special guest. I'm gonna talk about that here in a little bit, but I got to touch on something magnificent that happened this weekend that I've been waiting for a long time, and that was the Errol Spence versus the Terrence Crawford fight. Now, we got to switch that now because that was a big point of contention, Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
That name on the carousel was Spence Crawford. Crawford said now it's Crawford Spence if there's going to be a rematch. But what we were able to see was a masterclass of epic proportions. I'm telling you, it was a technical display of boxing beauty.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Bud outclassed, outpunched, outsmarted. He was stronger. He was hungrier. I mean, I was in utter shock.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Even if that fight went all the way through, he dominated on the scorecard.
I couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And if the people of Nebraska could say that's what they expected, they lying.
Yeah.
They are lying. Now, I would give it up to the people who are actually in his camp.
Mm-hmm.
They knew, they actually saw something, and they were like, it's coming. Just everybody just watch what's about to happen because it's coming. Now, at this point, there is no more discussions about who is pound for pound the greatest boxer in the world. There's no debate. That thing is over. He is now on top of the pound for pound list. I mean, right away the next day, that stuff came out, and people say there's no doubt. One of the things you and I talked about, Harrison, off the air was looking at Errol Spence. Was he himself?
I think he was himself.
Something happened,
but in terms of injury, I think he was himself. For me, the thing was, I don't know if the full respect for Bud was there walking in there.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one of the things on the list was the respect there. But I do know one thing: there were a ton of doubters. There was people questioning his, who he boxed before. He talked about some of the haters as he was up on the stage. He pointed some people out. But I'm gonna tell you what: at the same time, I felt like he showed a lot of class.
Mm-hmm.
He took all of Errol's belts and gave them back to him. I don't know if you guys saw that in the post fight, but Bud gave his belts back, and that was a really cool move after he got done really having his way with them. And prior to the fight, there was a lot of back and forth going on. You know how it gets with fighters.
Yeah, you got to sell the fight.
They sold the fight, and it got a little nasty.
Mm-hmm.
There was a ton of name calling. There was some finger pointing. You ducked me. It was a lot of that stuff going on. And after the end of the fight, we got a chance to see a lot of mutual respect. And I think a lot of those guys realized that's what they got to do to sell the fight. Right.
Yeah. You see that all the time, whether boxing or UFC. Once the round's over, there's typically, not always, there's a lot of respect shown because, I mean, if you're in those sports, that's just different. You have to be a fighter. You can't make yourself a fighter. I feel like that is just in you. You got to really want it because the money's not going to be there right away either.
Absolutely.
So you got to want to be a fighter.
Well, what happens, I think, a lot of times is if it gets personal,
mm-hmm.
if you start talking about family members, if you start
like the Khabib and Conor McGregor,
that right
mm-hmm.
there, the name calling, and then maybe it gets physical, like real physical before the fight even starts, it's really kind of hard to come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I want to transition, okay? Because tonight it's a special night for myself. I have a brother that's coming on, a brother from another mother. And I say that about the class of 91 that we all came into Nebraska at the same time. But nobody really gets a chance to, there's a few of us that you have been able to hear from over the years. And, a lot of our stories because we just kind of been in the media. But this guy has really just kind of done his job, raised his family, and just kind of stayed out of the spotlight some.
Mm-hmm.
And as I knew I was going to be doing this show alone, I wanted to say, okay, who do I want to bring on that will be a little bit different, get a little different perspective. He is probably was raised the polar opposite of myself and Strick. And what people don't understand is in sports, when you bring those type of people together, that's when you break down walls, you break down barriers, racial barriers.
I think you guys talk about it a lot. That's what made Osborne great.
Absolutely.
He broke those walls. You guys were a team. Every year under Osborne, that was the team. A family even.
I'm going to tell you, I learned a lot from going to Nebraska and being able to become friends with guys like Jeff Makovica, who's coming on to the show. Steve Ott, who's from, where's Steve Ott from? I'll think of his town here in a minute. People like Terry Keneally from Hyenas. I mean, there's just tons of guys that you have a chance to meet, and you may have a perception.
Mm-hmm.
There may be some perceptions of small towns and guys from the cities. Then you get together and have a common goal to win a championship. That brotherhood, that bond can never be broken. Now, I've seen Jeff and I've talked to him a few times over the years. And I'm going to tell you, right when we see each other or right when we talk, it's like a huge smile. Because the smile is, I know, you know, and I know. And what the you know and I know is what we went through. Because from 18 to about 22 in a young man's life, that is a really tough time. That is a time when you are trying to find out who you are as a man. What is your purpose? What are you here for? Do you mean anything to anybody? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going through a young man's a time in that time of life. You can even look at depression and suicide statistics right now. That age group, it could be is fairly high because, believe it or not, a lot of times for young men, people don't care. They don't care. The world is about, hey, listen, you got to get out there and you got to get it done. Now, I do feel like when it comes to mental health and having somebody to talk to, that has changed a lot over these last 20 or so years.
Yeah, it's gotten better.
It's gotten a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell you, it's still, there's still a connotation about a man reaching out for help sometimes.
Yeah.
There's still kind of a stigma about it. And you really have to surround yourself with the right people. You got to have somebody that you can really talk to and walk you through this thing called life, man, because it can be difficult. And at that time when football is everything to us and going to school is everything to us. And if that's not going well, it's like my world is caving in on me.
Well,
right?
I feel like at that age too, that's kind of for me, I'm only 24.
Absolutely.
Right?
You can speak on it.
Right.
So
this is the point in time where you can hear the clock ticking, right?
Absolutely.
Like, am I meeting my goals?
Yes.
Do I even have a plan in front of me? And that, I feel like that's when, like, young men in particular, they feel like they got to have that full plan.
Yes.
And you hear that clock start tick. High school's over. What am I going to do? I think it's a lot of stress on young men in particular, is that you hear that clock going and you got to figure out a plan. Like, what are you going to do if this football thing doesn't work out? It's just a lot to figure out at a very crucial point in life.
So without further ado, this special guest, my friend, your friend, bring back the fullback. I'm going to bring him on the show right now. Jeff Makovica.
Yeah. Hey, Clester, how's it going?
Man, listen.
I love hearing that fullback. I don't hear it enough. Maybe we'll hear it more. This Rule guy, I really like what he's saying. So maybe we'll hear more of the fullback.
Yes. Listen, it's been a while since Jeff and I have really had a chance to chop it up. So I want everybody out there to know that this is us catching up live. We are actually catching up live right here or live streaming on the WTF podcast. By the way, Jeff, WTF is We Talk Facts. Now, it's a double entendre to that, and you know what the other part of it is. But man, listen, I want to thank you for coming on to the show.
Yeah.
As you guys can see, Jeff is sitting in the office now. Jeff, could you please tell the people what you're doing now and what you've been doing over these years since you've left football?
Yeah. So, excuse me, I'm a corporate attorney at QTAC Rock here in Omaha. I'm actually in our building in glorious downtown Omaha right now. It's the old Omaha building. If you remember, if you've walked by that, 16th and Farnham. So we have lawyers in the entire building. So it's a national firm. We have about 600 lawyers, and it's actually the only national firm that's headquartered in Nebraska. And that's what's really neat about being here. The guts of the system is here in Omaha. So we keep that kind of culture and we spread it throughout the country. So it's a great firm, and I've been here since 2012. And like I said, I'm a corporate lawyer, so I'm a boring lawyer. My girls laugh at me. They're like, "You're not one of those lawyers that is a real lawyer that goes in the courtroom, are you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't do that. I just put deals together, and I help people buy banks. I help people buy other companies, and so I push a lot of paper. But it's fun. It's a really interesting job. You learn something every day. But what, like Clester mentioned, one of the things that got me interested in what I'm doing now, and keep, like you push yourself, Clester, every day. We push ourselves every day because of the lessons we learned as young men. And what's really unfortunate, I wanted to say this because you brought up a great point about young men and their vulnerable times and being part of a program. That's what I really, really hope and wish, and we're going to get there with Coach Rule, is I want these kids to have a similar experience like you and I had, Clester. I want them to have champions. We have five. What do we have? 5 Big 8 champions. Each year we got a ring. And then 2 years we got big national championship rings. So, and the years before us, the guys that weren't on national championship teams, they were winning the Big 8 year in and year out, and they were in big games and they were winning rings. And that working towards that and seeing the end, maybe a championship, really does bring you together even more, because you accomplish something unimaginable together. So I really hope these kids can get there. I really do.
That was beautiful. Listen, the first thing I want to say, Jeff, is don't diminish what you do as a lawyer, because passing the bar and going to school to do what you have to do, man, I'm telling you, not everybody could do that. I mean, I know in those programs there are weed out courses for people to not pass, and you passed them. So that's a huge deal. Now,
thank you.
I'm about to bring something back to you, Jeff, because I'm like, you know what? What are some things that people would want to know about Jeff that they don't know? So let me tell you where I went, Jeff. Let me tell you where I went. If you can see this book right here, right?
Yes.
This book right here is a book that we all wrote.
Yeah.
We won back-to-back national championships. Okay. We all have our own chapter. Okay. So what I did is I did a little research on Jeff. So we about to go back, Jeff. I'm going to take you back. Now, before I take them back, what we looking like on time? Before I take them back? Because we got
about 5 minutes left on this segment.
We got some stuff to uncover. Okay, Jeff, listen. I'm here in the Jeff Makovica section. Everybody can see this. I want everybody to see this right here. Jeff,
he's a lot bigger than.
He has his own section. Now, your dad, John.
Yeah.
He did something very, very important that I wanted to do also as a father. Okay. I'm going to read this excerpt, And after I read it, I want you to talk about it, okay? Although he came from a sports-oriented family, Jeff was never pushed into athletics. My father left the decision up to me and made it clear he would support me with or without sports, recalled Makovica. It was my choice to pursue athletics, and I felt fortunate to have a father who could guide me throughout the whole process. I really didn't get serious about sports until the 7th grade. Now, take me back to that time, Jeff, when here your dad is this great athlete, multi-sport athlete from the University of Kearney. Your sister, who's older than you, was a great athlete at the University of Kearney. How did he not put the pressure on you guys to say, hey, listen, now it's your turn? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was really neat. Where if it was any different, it probably would have been it just would have been too much pushed on you. You know, he never pushed us and said, you know, you got to do this sport, you got to do this, you got to do that. He was just there if we had questions. I remember he wasn't a coach when I was playing at East Butler, but after one of my first games in high school, he noticed I was doing something wrong when I was running the football, and he said, "I can show you some stuff out on the farm, out on the lawn if you want." And so he was always that way. He'd offer it if we asked. And the absolute biggest thing that he gave me and my mom is that we were never afraid to fail. They always, you know, sports isn't it. If you lose the game, if you don't make the team, we're still home. We're at home and we'll love you and we're there for you. So sports weren't the end all be all. So that you approach things where you weren't afraid to lose a game. You weren't afraid to be an 8-man football player and walk on at Nebraska. Because I knew if I failed, I mean, I still had this great dad, this great mom to come home to, and it wasn't going to ruin their world if I didn't make it. It really wouldn't. But what they did is they found what each of us loved and they helped support it. So like with my kids, you know, I have some of my daughters are into sports and then a couple others aren't, but they love other things. And you find out what they love, and then you just get in there and you get behind them. And that's what my parents were like. My dad, especially.
I want to repeat something that may have been ran over really fast. Jeff is from Brainerd, East Butler. He played 8-man football. He didn't start until his junior year, ended up winning a state championship. So he had lots of cards stacked against him. And listen, Jeff, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back. But we just started the beginning. This is just the beginning because there's more stuff out of this chapter that we got to touch on. So just give us one quick WTF podcast. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Agriculture is the economic engine of the Midwest. At Acres Equipment, we dedicate ourselves to making that engine run smoothly. We supply our farmers and ranchers with quality John Deere equipment, parts, and service. We also deliver the most advanced technology and precision ag strategies to help them farm today and for the future. Acres Equipment, solutions for every field.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the attention of the Nebraska Lottery that when people hear a radio commercial in their car for one of our lotto games, Powerball, Mega Millions, or Lucky for Life, they tend to begin daydreaming about how they'll spend the prize money if they win, instead of paying attention to the road. So please, when I tell you that Nebraska Lottery Lotto games offer big money and big fun, keep your mind on driving. Do not start thinking about all the things you could buy if you win. Things like private sports cars, tropical vacations, 100-inch TVs, hot tubs, SUVs, a new computer, motorboats.
Bob, snap out of it.
Oh, good heavens. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. Perhaps I should go home now.
You better let me drive.
Lotto games from the Nebraska Lottery. Top prize odds vary by game.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Hi, everyone. Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. Spring is here. Summer is fast approaching. With weddings, vacations, and weekend getaways on your mind, do not let car issues prevent you from getting where you need to be. Car problems shouldn't be something that you put up with. Let us get you back on the road in comfort and safety. We diagnose all makes and models from Porsches to Hondas, Toyotas, and Chevrolets. We fix a variety of issues with all of them with our talented techs and our experienced staff. A1 Automotive at 11th and L, downtown Lincoln, always honest answers.
Steve's Garage Doors and Services is hiring. They are looking for a garage door installation and service technician with a clean driving record. Experience is not required as they will train for the positions. However, mechanical aptitude is required. If you want to come be a part of a small business where you're family, not just an employee, call Steve's Garage Doors and Services today to apply at 402-480-2840. That's 402-480-2840. Steve's Garage Doors and Services.
This Easter, focus on your family instead of dishes with the Venue Easter to-go meals. Prepared fresh in house by our chefs, these meals are ready to heat and eat with packages for 2 to 3 people or 6 to 8, and your choice of juicy beef tenderloin, tasty herb roasted chicken, or our famous 6-pepper crusted prime rib. All meal packages come with sides, and we have additional add-ons available to complete your feast. Order today at venuedelivered.com/Easter. That's venuedelivered.com/Easter.
Spring sports are here and it's time to upgrade your equipment. But don't go rush into your big box store. Play It Again Sports is your place to go for all spring sports equipment for baseball, softball, golf, and disc golf. Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And don't forget, buying from them is a great way to get new products with great discounts by also bringing in your used items for store credit or cash on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
Back to We Talk Facts on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here are your hosts, Strickland Clester.
Hey, we back live on WTF Podcast on 93.7 The Ticket. We got a very special guest on tonight, Jeff Makovica. I call Jeff the original OG Makovica because he had a little brother who came in right behind him after Jeff did all of the grunt work.
Yeah.
So when I see Joel, when I see Joel walking around all cocky, I say, "Hey man, your brother blazed the trail for you. He let you know that you are good enough to play here." So I just want to throw that out there just in case Joel get a chance to see that. But anyway, again, we got Joel Makovica. Jeff Makovica. Ooh, we can't mess that up because you're the resident OG. Jeff. Jeff, listen, Jeff, I'm going to read in one more excerpt out of this book because we hit on this in the last segment talking about you playing at an 8-man football. So it says, the fact that Makovica played 8-man football caused people to wonder if he would play in the college ranks. I use all of the speculation to my advantage. The bottom line is I have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head on my shoulders, and I'm just as capable as the next guy. People think if you played 8-man ball or come from a small town, you are an alien on the football field.
I can't believe I read that. Yeah, wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah, just think, the 50-year-old Jeff is now listening to what the 22-year-old.
It's like when my kids hear that. I mean, what a goober they think.
But anyway, talk to me about you coming from an 8-man school and going to this monstrosity of a program, Nebraska, who's kicking butt, kicking everybody's butt, and it's been for years.
Yeah.
What in the world made you think you can come from an 8-man small town school and come play in Nebraska?
Yeah. So, my track to Nebraska was a lot different than Clester's. So Clester was super state hurdler, super state wrestler, super state football player. You were like the player of the year, weren't you, in 91? The athlete of the year?
I was.
Yes. So Clester knew he could play, and Clester was going to get opportunity. I was in this, this farm town back home, and we played 8-man football. And so the field's 90 yards long, and it's, I think, like 45 yards wide. So, I had like 1,800 yards rushing, but I tell people if I would have had that extra 10 yards length in the field, I would have had another, 500 yards, because I'd run, I'd take off from the 5-yard line and I'd only get 85 yards.
So, that's right.
Yeah. But so I was in a small town, and I just felt that, if I was going to play football in college, I wanted to try, like every kid, I want to try at the best level. And if I don't make it, have them tell me I can't make it. And I could always move down to a lower level. So that was my thinking. I wanted to start at the top. And where was the top? I mean, the top was Nebraska for a Nebraska kid. And I sent my tapes to Nebraska, and I think my junior year, I get this card from, I still have it too, this card from Shane Thorell. Do you remember Shane? He was like a graduate assistant there.
Yep.
So I get this card from Shane, and he says, Jeff, look, I received your tapes. I watched your tapes. I looked at your camp stats. I was at like a football camp when I was a sophomore. And he said, I don't know if you're big enough and fast enough to play at Nebraska. You better look for a smaller school. And he sent me that letter, telling me to look elsewhere, and not even a big, but like a small school. So I got that from Coach Thorell, and I was just devastated. And so my dad and I talked, and I said, I really want to try the Division I thing, and if it doesn't work, I can always move to another level. So it sounds like it's not going to be Nebraska. So we went to, we sent tapes, Colorado State, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Iowa State. All those schools brought me in on a visit, and they talked to me, and all of them offered, even Oklahoma offered me a walk-on. And Iowa State, I think it was close to maybe like a gray shirt, or maybe a little bit better than a walk-on. So all these other schools were interested. And then I had to decide, and it was like a month before I graduated high school, and I had to decide where I was going. And everyone in this small class, 23 kids in my senior class, were like, where are you going to school? And I'm like, well, I really don't know yet. And Dad said, Jeff, you need to make a decision. He said, what's holding you up? He said, it's Nebraska, isn't it? I said, yeah. I said, if I could walk on at Nebraska, the decision would be over already. So Dad said, what I'm going to do? I'm going to call up Coach Osborne. I don't know how he got his phone number, maybe from some old football cut, because Coach Osborne was a Hastings football player and Dad was a Kearney football player. So maybe they had some connections. So he got through to Coach Osborne, and he said, Coach, he said, I got this son. He plays 8-man football. He wants to walk on. Can you take a look at his tapes? He sent him in, and he kind of got this letter back already. And Coach Osborne said, well, I never even looked at his tapes, because I think when it gets to the graduate assistant, and if it doesn't get past him, he's like the threshold. And if it gets past him, it'll get up to the higher coaches, but it never got up to any other coach. So Coach said, I'll do this for you, John. I'll take Jeff's tapes. I'll go find them. He found my tapes, and he looked at them, and then he called Dad back in like a day and said, you know what? I see some potential, we'll give him a shot. So they offered me a walk-on, and it was basically I begged and pleaded, and it's testament of Coach Osborne. He saw something in me, and he took a huge risk, because if you remember, Clester, ours was the first freshman class that came in without that separate freshman team. So we got thrown in with all the varsity players, and we had to practice against the old guys when we got in there. Before that, they took the freshmen and they separated, they practiced separate, and then they had their own freshman games. They'd go up and play Air Force and all that. Yes. And we were the first class that didn't have that. So for him to, and they were bringing in a lot, not as many walk-ons too, because they didn't have that big freshman team. So he took a huge risk on me. to even give me a walk on. So that's kind of how I got there. And I did a little recruiting visit after they said I could walk on, and I think it was Munson walked me around. He's like, "Here's the field, here's kind of the locker room," and he's like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "I'm good." And then I meet all you guys like when I walk in for the first team meeting, and I'm like, I hope Coach Osborne knows who I am. And he was introducing all the freshmen. I don't know if you remember, but he knew. Oh, there's Hey Clester. What's it? I'm like, well, yeah, he knows Clester, and he knew all the other ones. And then I'm just sitting there sweating because he's going to get to me, and I'm like, he's going to go, and I'm going to be embarrassed by all these guys because he doesn't know my name. And he's like, Jeff, he knew my name, and that was like so cool. And once to answer your question in a roundabout way, I knew I could make, like you too. I knew that I belonged there after the first practice. You were nervous going up to the first practice because you thought all these guys were just so amazing. And then you started playing with them and you're like, gosh, I think I can do this. I can hang with these guys. And I think that's when it occurred to me that, maybe I have a chance to make it here.
I want to throw this out at you, Jeff, and I want people out there in WTF land to understand this. Jeff played with Lawrence Phillips, Amon Green, Corey Schlesinger. Then he had his little brother behind him, pushing him. He had Brian Schuster, pretty good fullback also. And I'm going to tell you, Jeff Mack is, and I'm not kidding you, is the hardest working Husker that I ever witnessed. Let me throw something out at you, Jeff. Remember, you were outside and you were tied to a car. I remember
I was pushing it. I pushed the SUV. I was pushing the SUV. I put it in
the SUV. I was just like, Jeff, like, listen, everybody used to say, hey, listen, Jeff is coming. We all knew Jeff walked on, but you knew that he is coming for your spot.
Oh, so you guys in the locker room already knew.
We knew.
Okay.
I'm telling you, because unfortunately, and I got another big question for you, Jeff, but I got to say this to set you up, right? Unfortunately, a guy like me, I had a different kind of pressure. I was the Nebraska Athlete of the Year, and I had all these expectations thrown onto me to perform like right away. And I'm gonna tell you what, I was not mentally ready. I wasn't ready.
It was harder for you. I seriously, you were the state player. I mean, everyone knew you had to get on the field right away. And that's what it's harder, I think.
I wasn't ready, man. I'm just telling you, I wasn't ready to do it. And it took me almost 3 years before I found myself. And
you found yourself.
Well, eventually I got under the right coach who gave me the right kind of confidence to tell me that I can do it. And then I surrounded myself with the right players, because I got to tell you this, Jeff, one of the things I learned, and I heard Coach Osborne talk about it in our meeting room, how we all get together in the big room, the big auditorium before we all break out to our position meetings. Coach Osborne knew out of 150 players, not everybody is there to become the best football player they could be, the best student they could be. He knew he had some knuckleheads on the team. And he said, the sooner you can get around the right mindset people, you're going to take off and ascend. And a light bulb came on in my head when he said that, because I was around the wrong people, Jeff. I was around the wrong people. I was partying. There was girls, because you're no longer under your parents' tutelage anymore.
Yeah.
So now you're out here having to manage college life. And I'm going to just tell you, man, we came in with 22, and not all of us made it through for 4 or 5 years. There's a lot of guys that ended up dropping off.
Yeah.
So let's transition to some good times. You're at Nebraska now. You can play. You've broken into, you're like right behind Corey Schlesinger, who ended up getting drafted and having a long career in the NFL. tell me when you felt like, you know what, I'm the man now. Like I am at the top of the pinnacle when it comes to fullbacks, because fullback was like a very vaunted, that was a position of pride, and it's a big deal in the Nebraska offense. When did you feel like, you know what, I made it?
Yeah.
When did you feel that way?
I would say so. Like when you got your scholarship, you were, and you, I mean, you ended up, one of the greatest receivers blocking, route running receiving that we've ever had. So you started with a scholarship, and then you had that. What I didn't have when I was a walk-on, it's the one thing that you desire so badly is that scholarship, because you don't think that you're fully and I don't know why you're not fully wanted there until they actually outlay that money for your school. So I think when I got that scholarship, I think it was my sophomore year, it was just like, now I can sit back and I don't have to worry about the coaches, not having confidence in me, because they showed in one respect that they had confidence in me by giving me that scholarship. So that was a big turning point. The second, or maybe actually even before that, it's when I moved to fullback. I mean, I was an I-back. Remember our freshman year, I was an I-back up to my sophomore year. So I was playing I-back my sophomore year, and then Coach Gill and Coach Osborne saw that some defenses might be susceptible to the quick trap. So they were trying to work me then into fullback my sophomore year. And did I ever tell you the story how that came out? Who wanted to be fullback? So they pull all of us I-backs into a room. My sophomore year, you got Benning and great Clinton Childs, Lawrence Phillips is there in this room, and Coach Osborne's like, we have a lot of I-backs. We don't have a lot of fullbacks. And Corey's going to be graduating pretty soon. We need one of you guys need to move to fullback. And all the guys are looking around saying, I want to carry the ball, And all of a sudden I raised my hand because I watched Lawrence practice, I think a couple days. But remember that first scrimmage he had where he ran for like 300 yards against our top defense as a freshman? And I was just like, Coach, I'm moving. So I moved to fullback my sophomore year. And then, so I was playing fullback at the end of our sophomore year, and I started playing fullback in December. And then we had the bowl game against Florida State, and I had only been playing fullback for maybe a half a month. And the night before that Florida State game, Coach, after we broke our big meetings and we were going to bed for the national championship the next day against Florida State, Coach Gill pulls me over to this table with Coach Osborne, and he said, Jeff, you stand by Coach Gill the entire game, because we think that trap they're vulnerable to the trap. We're going to run that trap at some point, and it's going to be you or Corey that's going to do it. But we want you there by our side. And I'm like a sophomore, and I'm like, they're going to put me in this game as a sophomore, and I hadn't played the position more than like 3 weeks, and I was just like freaking. And we get. Did I ever tell you? So we get to the sideline, and in that game, then I'm by Coach Gill, and Coach Gill's, it's like the second quarter, and Coach Gill's like, Jeff, get in at fullback, and I'm like, oh no, and but it's a trap. It's a trap, right. So that's easy. I understand a trap. I was an I-back. I just carry the football, but it's a little quicker. And so I'm down in my stance on national television, national championship game, down in my stance. Never played the position, but for 3 weeks. And it's a trap. So I'm like, you got this, Jeff. You got this. And Tommy is it was like on 2, and Tommy gets 1, and he called an audible, and he changed it to an option. And that's one of the most complex blocking scheme for a fullback. So I'm in my stance, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? I'm going to just screw up this option play. And I'm down there just sweating bullets as a sophomore in the fullback stance. And I'm like, please help me, someone. And Tommy calls timeout because the defense moved again, and they were going to get Corey back in. So I got pulled off. So by having confidence with me, my sophomore year, that helped a lot. And I mean, you were playing a lot too your sophomore year. And I mean, that's why, you get your confidence once you get in the game.
I want to throw this out at you.
Yeah, you got one more quick question.
Okay, one quick question. Now today, when a guy goes on scholarship, they do a huge deal on social media. Sometimes you see how the team get behind this guy, the coach announces this guy's going on scholarship, everybody goes crazy. They didn't do that back then. They didn't do that. So when you were going to be put on scholarship, how did you talk to your parents? I mean, how did they feel? How did your family feel when you called them up and said, you know what, they're going to put me on scholarship? I want to know what that reaction was like.
It was pretty amazing. Let me just say this first about walk-ons. And Clester, this is for you to hear and for all the other scholarship guys in my class. You guys made it easy for a walk-on without having a scholarship yet, because we weren't treated like second-class citizens. What was so neat, and that's why the walk-on program worked in Nebraska. You come in, and if you can do it, all Clester's looking for is a guy that can do it. And if you're doing it, it doesn't matter if you're a walk-on or a scholarship player, they'll accept you. And I think that came down to the players from the coaches. No, there wasn't a separate walk-on award each year. Here's the best walk-on on the team. There was just the team. And you guys treated walk-on. Naturally, the coaches are going to be good to walk-ons, but the other guys, treated the walk-ons like they were part of the team. So that was a big. That's why it was so successful. Part of it was the players.
And part of it is the fact that you are a great person, Jeff. Don't diminish that. Listen, hold your thought, because we coming back to ask Jeff how we gonna get this program back on track on WTF podcast.
Agriculture is the economic engine of the Midwest. At Acres Equipment, we dedicate ourselves to making that engine run smoothly. We supply our farmers and ranchers with quality John Deere equipment, parts, and service. We also deliver the most advanced technology and precision ag strategies to help them farm today and for the future. Acres Equipment, solutions for every field.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the attention of the Nebraska Lottery that when people hear a radio commercial in their car for one of our lotto games, Powerball, Mega Millions, or Lucky for Life, they tend to begin daydreaming about how they'll spend the prize money if they win, instead of paying attention to the road. So please, when I tell you that Nebraska Lottery lotto games offer big money and big fun, keep your mind on driving. Do not start thinking about all the things you could buy if you win. Things like bright red sports cars, tropical vacations, 100-inch TVs, hot tubs, SUVs, a new computer, motorboats.
Bob, snap out of it.
Oh, good heavens. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. Perhaps I should go home now.
You better let me drive.
Lotto games from the Nebraska Lottery. Top prize odds vary by game.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Hi, everyone. Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. Spring is here. Summer is fast approaching. With weddings, vacations, and weekend getaways on your mind, do not let car issues prevent you from getting where you need to be. Car problems shouldn't be something that you put up with. Let us get you back on the road in comfort and safety. We diagnose all makes and models from Porsches to Hondas, Toyotas, and Chevrolets. We fix a variety of issues with all of them with our talented techs and our experienced staff. A1 Automotive at 11th and L, downtown Lincoln, always honest answers.
Steve's Garage Doors and Services is hiring. They are looking for a garage door installation and service technician with a clean driving record. Experience is not required as they will train for the positions. However, mechanical aptitude is required. If you want to come be a part of a small business where you're family, not just an employee, call Steve's Garage Doors and Services today to apply at 402-480-2840. That's 402-480-2840. Steve's Garage Doors and Services.
This Easter, focus on your family instead of dishes with the Venue Easter to-go meals. Prepared fresh in house by our chefs, these meals are ready to heat and eat with packages for 2 to 3 people or 6 to 8, and your choice of juicy beef tenderloin, tasty herb roasted chicken, or our famous 6-pepper crusted prime rib. All meal packages come with sides, and we have additional add-ons available to complete your feast. Order today at venuedelivered.com/Easter. That's venuedelivered.com/Easter.
Back to We Talk Facts on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here are your hosts, Strick and Clester.
Yo, we back. We are back on the WTF podcast. I want to shout out to the Sauter Heyman text line. We're also streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Allo, and channel 95, channel 951.
951, and shout out Facebook as well.
And we also want to shout out to Facebook, anybody out there watching. We got a special guest again. We got Jeff Mack, and I'm just so happy we were able to catch up and rekindle some of this old school talk. Now, we talked about Jeff coming from small town Brainerd, 8-man football. He overcame that. Within the first few weeks, he discovered, you know what, I could play with these guys. He broke through, got a scholarship. Now we win in championships, and he's an integral part of that. And now, Jeff, I want to throw this at you. We never, ever thought we would see Nebraska where it is right now, okay? We are all, as former players, looking at this beautiful statue that now has all these cracks in it, and it's about to fall down. I mean, and the fall down is now people are not coming anymore. They're fed up. The streak is over for home sellouts. I want to know from your opinion, what do you think we need to do as a small town guy who got it out of the mud, built himself up, and became the stud at Nebraska? What do they need to do to get back on track?
Yeah, I think you'd agree. What I think the first thing is practice. I mean, you know what it was like when we were there. We were so excited on game day because that was the off day, because we beat each other up. Although I don't know if you can do as much as we used to do back then. It might not be per NCAA rule. I mean, we went full pads most of the week, and it was, scrimmage on Wednesday. We'd have to go against Christian Peter and his defense and Phil Ellis on Wednesdays in full pads. And that was always more brutal than game day. It just really was. So I think they need to get back to that. And it sounds like Coach Rule wants to do that, practice hard, practice hard, practice hard. And with that, then I think teams, when we played, I mean, Clester, you heard the rumors out there, the athletic department would say it's so hard to schedule out of conference games because those teams like Pacific, if they're coming to Memorial Stadium to play us, they're expecting to lose maybe 5 to 10 players for the rest of the season in that game. I mean, everyone knew that. There was just an aura. They feared our physicality, and they knew they would lose players coming into Memorial Stadium due to injury because we were just so physical. So they got to get that back too. And then they have to not be used to losing. Absolutely hate losing. Be as competitive, because that was one of our advantages, Clester, our class and the classes before us and ahead of us, ultra competitive. And they need to get that back. And then maybe the last thing, they have to play physical football. Physical football is important. And the last thing is, playing for the history. Let's go make history. Let's not just be a Husker football player because we won in the 90s or we won in the 80s and the 70s. Let's go make our own history. And each guy needs to do that. Just focus on each game. You know, I'm going to talk about this game with my grandkids, like you and I are going to someday, Clester. You know, we got some rings, and I want these kids to know that there's that opportunity for them to create these memories that'll last a lifetime. And that starts with hard work, physicality, competitiveness.
That was the key. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better than that. The number one thing I remember Coach Osborne saying is we are going to be the most physical team on the field. Now, when you look at college football today, Jeff, can you tell me who are the 2 or 3 most physical teams in college football? Who would you say that is?
I would say Georgia and Alabama.
Absolutely. So you can still be that. You can still be physical, because when I watch those teams, what I see is physicality. Like, they are tough, they are fast, and if you get in the way, you're getting ran over.
Remember Kansas State, Clester, our junior year? We lost starting quarterback, backup quarterback.
Yes.
Sherman was quarterbacking, and we had to just pound that game. And you blew up the safety on that run that I had at the end. If you didn't blow up, I don't think you did. You lit him up, and you lit him up so bad it looked like a clip. But
you scored a touchdown.
but that's we had to rely on physicality to win that. And if we don't win that game, we don't win the national championship. So that you're blocking, and so it's
you're blocking. That's right. You're blocking too. Okay, now before we get out of here, what's your prediction this year, Jeff? We got a new coach. We haven't been to a bowl in 6-7 years.
2017 was the last.
Man, we haven't been to a bowl.
And that's sad.
It's unbelievable. It's totally unbelievable to me. I mean, we haven't even been 500 in the last 6 or 7 years. So tell me, a new coach, he's known to turn around programs.
Yeah.
What is your prediction, Jeff, for this
year? I'd say it's I hate saying it, but 6 wins, it would be an accomplishment. If we can get to the 6-win point and get to a bowl game so that they have that extra game to practice with this new staff, that would be my prediction. And I hope it comes true. But it just sounds, Clester, doesn't that sound weird saying 6 wins? And me, you know, but that's what he's getting into and what he's trying to turn around. 6 wins would be a great season, I think, for this first year for him.
It's pretty amazing to hear you say that. I never ever thought I'd hear the day where we're going, if we could just win 6 games.
I've been growing up in it.
Jeff Mack, listen, I want to thank you, and I love you, my brother.
Me too.
Don't
man.
be a stranger. We're gonna have you back on, because there's a lot of things we skipped out. So I'm coming back at you.
Yep.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the WTF podcast on all the different platforms: Facebook, Twitch, 951, Allo. Did I cover it all? Facebook again, in the Sauter Heyman text line. We're gonna sign out. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Clester.
Thanks, Jeff.